Let's get to Ed Yardeni,
Sure.
Yardeni Research President. You think, I mean, we've had the case made that the stock market is wrong, basically what someone was saying earlier about the way it's react, because it's going to be anti-growth. Even the trade deals themselves, this individual, Roger Altman, said the trade deals themselves are anti-growth and inflationary. And the stock market is just ignoring it because of AI, I guess.
Well, I think the stock market is just discounting the facts that we've learned over the past 3.5 years, and that is this economy is amazingly resilient. It does extremely well. I think a lot of people tend to focus on the headlines, and the headlines tend to be about Washington, and they tend to be kind of off-putting, maybe depressing sometimes. But I've observed that it's amazing how well the U.S. economy and stock market have done despite Washington.
Right. Ed, have you changed your views on the effect of tariffs on the whole equation? Because you were, you started the year, what'd you say, 7,000?
7,000, yes.
So the tariffs threw you.
They did.
You were a little bit of trepidation there. You didn't go below 6,400 on the S&P.
No, I mean, my thinking was that it's still a bull market, but I had to recognize that.
You might be right at 7,000 when it's all said and done.
Yeah, it may very well be. I mean, we seem to be in a slow motion melt-up right now, where the market just kind of gradually goes up every single day, and no matter what. And I think the market, since April 8th, April 9th, when Liberation Day was postponed, the market has been basically focusing on the economy, focusing on the fact that maybe we don't need lower interest rates. Maybe inflation isn't going to pop up as much as was of concern. And all in all, the earnings story is amazing. I mean, earnings first quarter came out about twice, the growth rate came out about twice as much as expected, and it could happen again in the second quarter. So companies are earning money.
Because it's been the same economy that you're talking about in the economy of 3.5 years. I think the idea was that the economy is going to be adversely affected by all these policies. Would you say that that's not the case, or it's still to come?
Well, look, we started out in 2022 with the notion that the economy was going to go into recession. I wasn't in that camp. I thought the economy would be resilient. The economy's, over the past few years, has put up with a pandemic, with supply disruptions, with inflation, with the Fed tightening, and now with tariffs. And I guess my view was that tariffs would be disturbing, but on the other hand, the evidence of the past few years is don't underestimate the strength of the economy, the resilience of the economy, and particularly the labor market.
So what would knock the stock market off its, the glide path it seems to be on? Could it be an inflation number this week?
Well, we do certainly are back to high valuation multiples. We're back to where we were before the correction, about 22.
3% inflation would a print above 3%?
I think if we suddenly saw that, we just had to be patient. The tariffs will have some impact on inflation. But I think everybody agrees it's a one-shot deal, so I'm not even sure that would be that off-putting. I think what tariffs have done, they haven't necessarily raised inflation. They've kept inflation from getting down to 2%. I think without the tariffs, we would have been at 2%. Now
you just think it's an issue that the economy is able to absorb it, not that it's actually going to, I mean, it should be actually raising prices, but you're just saying the economy is absorbing it. It's not that it's actually preventing inflation from happening.
No. The tariffs you're saying?
Yeah.
No, the tariffs must have some sort of an inflationary
effect.
But at the same time, they are a tax, and taxes tend to be deflationary. So there's kind of offsetting issues there. But I think the economy is so huge that on balance, the import side of it just isn't having much of an impact on inflation.
How much of it is these producers or the retailers or others keeping prices lower because they're afraid to raise prices to draw the ire of the president? I
think there's a lot of that going on. But what's really remarkable is that analysts aren't predicting that profit margins are going to be shrinking in the second quarter. That's
how much do you, to the extent that you think the tariffs are actually helpful or that these new trade rebalances are helpful, so the idea that General Motors or Ford or somebody else is going to start to sell cars into Germany, how quickly do you think that we'll see a benefit if we see one at all?
Well,
and how big a benefit?
I think there's an immediate benefit when it comes to tax receipts. And I think that's what Trump really is excited about.
Tax receipts for the U.S., yes. No, I'm asking a different question. I'm saying if you were to look at General Motors today,
Yeah.
or any of the American companies that are now supposed to have easier access to parts of Europe that they didn't before, how quickly do you think that is going to actually show up in numbers for those companies?
I think it's going to take a while. I mean, these things...
Like years?
Not years, but a couple of years. Meanwhile, I think...
Not years, but a couple of years? It sounds like years, plural.
Okay, years, yeah.
Okay.
2 years.
And then you think it becomes a meaningful part of their business in a different way?
I think there's a lot of moving parts here, and I think, yes, it'll be an important part of their business. But meanwhile, the auto industry is kind of a funky industry these days because they face globally tremendous competition from Chinese electric vehicles, and these are all subsidized, and they keep dumping them around the world.
And what do you think the chances are that all these deals actually get renegotiated? Meaning, I mentioned earlier, Trump did not get anything on, for example, digital taxes.
Correct.
Some of the big tech stuff, all of that. By the way, we should mention right now, you're looking at a live shot of Stockholm, Sweden, as all this is actually happening, because we're talking about the U.S. trade delegation arriving for those trade talks with China. And we'll check in with Eamon in just a minute. But how much do you think there's a chance that actually we go back to the drawing board with some of these trading partners and say, actually, we need this, and this still?
It seems to be a very fluid situation.
And therefore, does the 15% go up or down?
Yeah. Well,
or do you think this is now the ceiling?
These are just framework agreements to a large extent. They're not treaties. They're not something that has to go through Congress. And the president has demonstrated that he's willing to be pretty flexible in terms of what he's demanding, not in terms of what others are demanding. And so he could change he could go back to the deal-making table.
By the way, there's Scott Bessent walking in
and Jameson
as we speak. Jameson Greer, who was just on with us.